everyone. I'm Erik Passoja. I'm an actor, filmmaker. I want to thank the organizers of this festival for putting my short film up next door. That was really appreciated. And I'm here to talk to you about AI and digital identity. Um, it's a hot topic right now. I'm going to say some things that are going to make your hairs stand on end. I would love to answer questions at the end. This is kind of when I'm not acting, I'm doing this. And I'll give you some context. And this is a conversation I've been having with lawmakers, both in Sacramento and federally. I just spoke with Senator Schiff's office on Thursday. These are conversations that go way beyond performers. They go way beyond our business. And if we could stop being so darn selfish as entertainers and understand that this affects children when it comes to pornography, this has affected the President of the United States when President Biden was deepfaked in a robocall in New Hampshire. This is a conversation with actors. We are the canaries in the coal mine of digital identity. You steal a carpenter's voice, they can still build. You steal a voice actor's voice, they'll never work again. So this conversation goes way beyond where we are because we're starting to deal with deepfakes on a grand level. We're going to talk about Tilly Norwood and Xenia Monet, and this is where the hairs are going to stand on end. Trust me, we're going to get to that. The conversation, by the way, she's not an actor, and that's not a singer. Here's where we are currently. As I mentioned, President Biden was deepfaked. Our White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles, was deepfaked. Our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, I never thought I'd say that in a sentence, was also deepfaked. AOC was deepfaked speaking on the House floor, and a very popular talk show host addressed the fact that she was saying outrageous things, not realizing it was a deepfake, even though it was labeled. Amy Klobuchar just had an op-ed in the New York Times. She is the author of the No Fakes Act federally. She was deepfaked. There was an op-ed in the New York Times this morning about deepfakes. This is a conversation I've been very quietly screaming about for 2 years, and it's starting to come to fruition. In terms of fintech, there have been 2 major scams where people have deepfaked the voice of C-level officers, one in Hong Kong, one in Arup. They stole $25 million each. We've had deepfake porn of our members, including Taylor Swift. We've had parents deepfaked. We've had deepfake advertising of celebs, and I'll get into that. And the fact is, right now with 11 labs, you can take a voice in 3 seconds. 10 seconds, it's pretty darn good. 10 minutes, you steal someone's audiobook voice, and you can pretty much make anything. 1 picture now, you can make a video out of it. It's not that great, but you have 2 pictures, it's even better. And you have 3 pictures, and you really have everything you need to deepfake a human being. This is where I come in. My first day job out of college was, I was never a waiter. I designed patent flows for Citibank's electronic monetary system. I'm a nerd. My mother was an aeronautical engineer during the space age. My father is a materials scientist and a quantum physicist, and I'm an actor. Boy, are they proud of me. And so I've been an AI nerd ever since I was 12, and I discovered Lisp, which was an AI programming language. I'm going to just ask a question. How many people here just are in show business in any way? Who's in show business? Whether either side of the camera, above the line, below the line, which is a term I hate. And how many people are not? Okay, great. I just kind of wanted to know where we are. In 2014, I did Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. I worked with Kevin Spacey. No, he didn't hit on me. And we were, as you can see in this picture, we were all entirely dotted up. I played as henchman Doc, a Belgian geneticist. And when we showed up on set, they went, here are the contracts. We were on the set where they shot Avatar, okay? They handed us all the contracts in the end, and I signed what I thought was a SAG-Aftra standard contract, and it was at the time. And 6 months later, the game came out, and a friend called me and said, hey, Erik, my son just shot you. I said, what? Turns out they'd taken my face, put it on a PvP player. Dude, I am shredded in this picture. But the fact is, you could play me for $30 a month running around shooting at your children. Now, if you know me, this is not okay. They made $1 billion off this game. It was the largest entertainment opening of 2014. They made more than Taylor Swift's 1989, Disney's Frozen, and Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy combined. I got my original session fee. So, at that point I realized, what about that 20-year-old with a voice like Janis Joplin, Whitney Houston, who shouldn't get her voice stolen from her for $50,000? It might seem a lot of money at a time, but she should be making Adele money. I should pay $350 to sit in the front seats and marvel at that woman's talent. So, when we went on strike in 2023, I got real busy realizing that I'm not going to be alone as we approach not only generative AI, but artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence, and we'll get to that in a minute. I became co-chair of the LA New Technology Committee. We put forward 30 tech proposals in 2024, 2025, 10 on AI and digital identity. I'm on the LA Government Affairs and Public Policy Committee. I went and testified, actually with our now president, Sean Astin, to support a labor board, AI labor board in Sacramento last year. I testified again this year supporting 3 bills. One is AB 853, which we'll talk about. The second one is an anti-pornography bill. And the third one is an algorithmic bias bill. And if you're in the business, you understand how much algorithmic bias there really is in casting. I've created 9 patents specifically dealing with technological ways to secure a digital identity. I was the original author of the open letter to Governor Newsom last year to support SB 1047, which he vetoed. However, our LA local president now, Jolie Fisher, Sean Astin, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and Mark Ruffalo sent a second letter, and Newsom was like, and then he didn't sign it. But this year, he just signed AB 853, excuse me, AB 53, SB 53, excuse me, Senate bill, which is created by the same senator, Senator Weiner, which has fewer teeth than SB 1047. It basically limits the power of large language models and makes sure we know it's in the sauce, and it makes sure that we can have whistleblower protections and other things. It is only happening statewide. And we're going to talk about the federal bills as well. California is definitely leading. So here's the deal. If your doctor calls you to double up on your medication, but it's not your doctor. If you call your school to pick up your kids and your school releases them, but it's not you. If the President of the United States, this is hyperbolic, goes on YouTube and says there are missiles heading for Miami, I don't care what your politics are, that should never happen. It took them 32 days to catch the person who did the Biden robocall. They should be kicking the person's door down in 10 minutes. FBI issued a public service announcement in 2024. Generative AI is now a major cause of scams. Families are getting calls from their kids. Mothers are not recognizing that it's not their children calling, asking for help. Computers have passed what's known as the Turing test, not being able to discern what's human and what's a computer. Denmark just equated digital identity with IP in their bills. Unfortunately, they're probably a lot better with intellectual property and copyright than the United States. We've had it since 1790, but the goalposts keep moving. And you can learn that with generative AI in terms of the Sarah Silverman case. Judge Alsup made a ruling, and the New York Times is now suing OpenAI for stealing millions of articles at potentially $150,000 an article. Let's hope that goes through. The EU, by the way, whoops, let me go back. The EU has also come up with their AI Act. So right now, deepfakes are kind of like jaywalking. People jaywalk all the time. They happen one at a time, and sometimes they get caught. On the right side, you're going to see, I blurred it out, a Russian Patreon site had 15 of our members in deepfake pornography, de-aged, younger. Amy Adams, Anna de Armas, Millie Bobby Brown of all people, she's young as it is, Amelia Clark, everyone, basically hardcore nude images, all concept AI, and we were able through our chief counsel's office to get that pulled down the next day. Yes, however, by the way, just note that this was pornography. This is a special particular case. On the right side, we have actor Raymond Cruz, wonderful actor. He and I have the same agent. Raphael called me one day and said, we got a problem. He said, what? He said, my client is up on Instagram in an Arizona law ad, and it's not him. And if you were to watch it, he's just talking. And by the way, he has a very large Latino following. Look at the bottom. It's half in Spanish. And in the middle of the video, he goes like this when he's talking. Ray would never do that. It took us 5 months to get that pulled down. SAG-Aftra Chief Counsel's office couldn't help us. Why? Because there's a law in the United States called Section 230, which basically means that platforms are not responsible for what their users post. If it's child pornography, yes, they'll take it down. And we'll get into CSAM in a minute. If it's something like this, they have to get it pulled down. Instagram is not going to help. But Scarlett Johansson has the lawyers. Actor Raymond Cruz didn't. Fortunately, we got some help and we got it pulled down, but it took us 5 months. Now imagine, right now, an artificial intelligence that just kind of does its own thing. It's going to be like writing a jaywalking ticket in a parade. We talk about agentic AI. Basically, you tell an AI to go do something for you. We actually see this quite often now, and I'll get into that a little bit. We actually have a global deepfake market, which is rising exponentially in terms of the money it's starting to earn. Semi-autonomous AI is what we're all handling. If you've ever used Perplexity, I can say, hey, can you tell me everything about Ana de Armas? And it will actually go out and start doing research for me. It'll start using all the search engines, and it'll come back with a nice paper. That is an AI agent that is trained to be like your assistant and goes out and does all the work and prepares it into a report. We have swarm robots, for short, Waymo. When you use Waymo, that is a semi-autonomous AI agent that accepts an order and goes and does it. Military drones now do that. You can tell a military drone, you can't tell it, but our government can tell a military drone to go do something. And then we have the criminal side of it. We got voice clone scams. We've got that corporate fraud I mentioned, romance scams. We're at $3.8 billion lost in romance scams last year. And of course, what has happened in Ukraine now, Russia and Ukraine are fighting the first AI war. They have semi-autonomous drones where you can actually have it hunt out specific personnel and explode itself near them. And I have this major daymare of like running down the street with groceries with like 15 drones chasing me down the street. Don't worry, there's good news. Here's how AI agents work. If you ever saw the movie Fantasia, remember that? Mickey's feeling lazy. He puts on the sorcerer's hat. He tells a broom to go get the water instead of him. And the broom goes and does it. And he falls asleep. That broom's prime directive was to go get water and pour it in the bin. Mickey falls asleep. All of a sudden, the broom has been going nuts, has been overfilling it. Mickey's been unable to stop him. What does he do? He chops them into pieces, and now they're all carrying the water. And who stops them? The wizard. Think of that like AI. Who is the wizard? Who is the wizard that's going to stop artificial intelligence? The answer is our government. It is not technology's job to protect us. It is the government's job to protect us from enemies, foreign and domestic, period. We actually need some legislation and some rules and some enforcement. I want you to just take a look at China now. I love showing this to legislators because, quite frankly, on September 1st, China just emerged with its labeling standards. If you have AI, you actually have to put what's called, please feel free to take pictures. And I'll also give you the link to it later on if you want to look through it. Basically, China has basically said, these are the rules when you actually use AI. You have to have an invisible label. It has to be inaudible. And if you want to do business with China on a digital level, now you have to use their system. This is what we have on the right side. We have nothing. We have one bill in California so far. It's a great bill. I'm going to talk about this, SB 942, and we're going to talk about labeling. If we do not lead with this, China is going to become the world standard in terms of commerce of AI labeling, and they are the surveillance state. This is my least favorite slide. It is not a matter of if a catastrophic deepfake is going to happen. It's really a matter of when. Okay, we actually have no protections. And the question is, do the tech companies want our institutions to collapse? I don't think so. Let me give you an example of a deepfake. By the way, I know the term is a bad actor, but as an actor, I really don't like that term. A bad guy. I can imagine a bad guy doing a deepfake of our Chairman of the Fed, Jerome Powell, saying that we need to raise interest rates 3 points. What happens to Wall Street the next day? These are conversations that are starting to come into the mainstream and are all over our papers, and we have no protections. It is a matter of time. So, having spoken with dozens of legislators, from Amy Klobuchar's office to Senator Warren's office to Senator Schiff's to Senator Mr. Padilla, it's really clear to me that we have passed one bill in the Fed to protect us from AI, and that's the Take It Down Act. It was pushed forward by Ted Cruz and practically stood upon by Melania Trump, and that's to protect people from deepfake pornography. That's it. There's a No Fakes Act out there. There is the Train Act, and there are others that are up there. I created Project Meridian as a way to get people to Washington within 48 hours and a task force to clean things up within 90 days. Because if a catastrophic deepfake happens, the entire country is going to be saying, turn off the internet, which is not going to happen. Our industry runs on the internet. So the conversation is, can we build an infrastructure that will actually have media be authenticated before streaming? And there is a solution, and I'm going to present it to you today. It starts not with SAG-Aftra. It starts with us as the spark. It doesn't start with legislators, it starts with industry. This is the good news. Not good news for industry, but I just went to the annual fraud conference in Monterey a few months ago. And I studied the insurance industry. Everybody was there. And here's the issue with the insurance industry. Right now, if you are if you deal with auto insurance, photo fraud and auto insurance is now a $6.8 billion leakage conversation. People are taking their fenders and they are going over to Midjourney and they are creating a dent in the fender and they are submitting it. Now here's the deal. If you are an insurance adjuster or you're on a special investigation unit, you do not have time to look at 8 to 10 photos per accident. Your job is to close a claim. It takes 1 to 5 minutes to look through each photo. The fraudsters know this. And let's say, sir, you and I'm an insurance adjuster, and you call me and say that you got in an accident. Well, I'm not going to call you a liar to your face. There's no way I know if you're telling the truth. So if it's less than $10,000 as an insurance adjuster, I'm just going to accept it. I say, fine. The fraudsters know that 10% of all claims are now fraud, at an average of $7,000 a claim. There are rings. I heard about one ring from the Philippines that had set something up in San Francisco, and they were defrauding people in Boston, laundering the money through San Francisco and sending it to the Philippines to organize an armed coup. I'm not even joking. That's where the fraud is in the insurance industry. And AI deepfakes are their nightmare. If you look across all insurance verticals, when you have an auto insurance claim and you're fraudulent, then you go, oh, my neck. Oh, and then you have a fraudulent doctor, and then you have disability, and it goes on and on. This is not good news for the insurance industry, but it's good news for us because they need to protect themselves from generative artificial intelligence. And $6.8 billion saved is $6.8 billion earned. And by the way, across all verticals, that's $18.6 billion in fraud every year, and it's only 2025. This is one of the most important slides in this deck. There are $425 billion of AI fraud going on right now in 2025, from fintech to media and entertainment, to government, to social media, manufacturing and industrial. We talked about the insurance, the Arab and the Hong Kong scams, and even legal services. I just talked with a battery company. People are sending fake invoices back to them to get money back on car batteries that they didn't buy. So, the issue is there is an industry reason to get this fixed. And if you're talking about a $425 billion problem, that is a perfect opportunity for the tech companies to come in and make money from it, from protecting people and protecting businesses from fraud. This is fully supported, by the way. I've had conversations with the California Department of Insurance and other law enforcement. This is very important. It's also very important to the FBI. I have a colleague that's dealing with all these deepfake scams right now. And we know what the stakes are at this point. Let's talk about legislation. On the left here, we have bills that have actually passed. They passed in 2024 and Governor Newsom signed them. There's AB 2602, which basically means your likeness, your voice, your name, and your image are your property. They belong to you, and they cannot be used without your consent in the state of California. Furthermore, SB 942, this is my favorite bill right now, basically says if you are a front-facing large language model like Midjourney, 11 Labs, which is ripping off a lot of voiceover talent's work, Microsoft, Google, et cetera, and you create AI, then it has to be labeled with what's called a latent disclosure. It means you can't see it, you can't hear it. But it has to say where it came from, and has to say that it's AI, and it has to be able to be made manifest. So if I'm with Midjourney, as of January 1st, and someone generates an image, I need to put an invisible label on it that is very difficult to remove, according to the law. And furthermore, I have to create something, if I'm Midjourney, that will let you validate that image and see the provenance on my website. So, you know, Adobe has this already with content credentials. If you create something with Adobe Photoshop and you save it, you drag it into the content credentials and it tells you all the information. This is going to desperately need what I call the USB of readers, because everyone's going to come up with a different reader on January 1st. But note, labeling artificial intelligence is the first step and an important one. And SB 942 works on that. We'll talk about it. But here's the thing. Let me go back 1 second. On the right side are the federal versions of those bills. There's the No Fakes Act, which is, by the way, our union has worked very hard on AB 2602 and is working very hard on the No Fakes Act by Senator Tillis, Senator Coons, Amy Klobuchar, and Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, who created the Elvis Act, which is very similar to AB 2602. This is a bipartisan conversation. No one has the guts and nobody to actually stand up in Congress and say this, but it is a bipartisan conversation that we're talking about serious existential risk. And second on the bottom right is the Copied Act, which is slowly being resuscitated, which is basically the federal version of machine-readable content provenance, invisible, inaudible watermarking, essentially. There is no enforcement. Even if all those laws pass, let me ask you a question. How much does a child pornographer care if it's against the law? How are you going to catch that person? It doesn't have a label on it. It goes through an IP address that's been faked. So how do you enforce it? Well, the FBI doesn't know how to enforce it yet. This is from the House AI Task Force report in December 2024. There is currently no single optimal technical solution to content authentication. There is no way for us to find out if it's real or if it's AI. I beg to differ, and that's good news. But that's what our House, by the way, our House AI Task Force is no more. Jay Obernolte and Congressperson Ted Lieu were on this committee. It got ixnayed. And the second thing they said is, I'm going to read this. The USCO concluded in a recent report on digital replicas, we'll talk about digital replicas and what they are, that new federal legislation is urgently needed to address the speed and scale and production and dissemination of digital replicas generated by artificial intelligence. The laws are inconsistent and insufficient. The solution. I'm very optimistic. I say 2025 legislation, but the reality is it's going to take longer than that. Here's the key insight. We're not going to stop people from creating deepfakes. We can't stop people from creating spam. How long have people been creating spam? For decades. But we can stop people from receiving spam. We can stop people from receiving deepfakes. We can filter out 99.9% of the deepfakes, and we can arrest the creators of that 0.1%. That's where the forensics come in. So I created 3 bills. Based on this is very interesting, based on proposals created by the LA New Technology Committee, I turned them into federal and state bills. The first one is defining informed consent for the use of your digital replica. Let's talk about what a digital replica is. Your likeness, the way you look, the way you sound, your voice, your name, and your image. Image and likeness are slightly different. I think we need to add 2 more things to this. Movement. We need to support our stunt people. This needs to be in legislation. And by the way, if it looks like grandma and it sounds like grandma, but it don't move like grandma, you can go, wait, I don't know if that's grandma. We need to get movement in there. We also need to get biometrics. We need to protect patients. Right now, I learned up in Sacramento while testifying with Sean Astin that they are using hospital data from ECUs to emergency rooms to patient beds. They're feeding them through generative artificial intelligence in order to analyze things without the patient's HIPAA consent. Second is digital watermarking. We're going to talk a little bit about digital watermarking. And let me just preface this by saying digital watermarking won't work. My premise is that nothing works. We have to work it. Religion doesn't work. We have to work it. Democracy doesn't work. We have to work it. Karate doesn't work. We have to work it. Just because someone hands you a black belt doesn't mean you can defend yourself. Digital watermarking needs to be actively worked on. And this is something I can speak to in depth because this is where my technical expertise is. And finally, on the right, we need cooperative systems to authenticate whether it came, where the source it came from, and to authenticate informed consent for its use. It's very beneficial to actors, but it's very beneficial to parents who want to protect their children. So the first thing I created was the SHIELD Act, and this is based on something we created in committee at SAG-Aftra. I'm going to read this because I think it's really important. We have informed consent for medical. We know about the HIPAA laws. We have it for education, employment. In fact, if we look at this data law right here, California CCPA and CPRA, you'll notice all of a sudden you're getting a lot of notifications about your cookie pop-ups. Those companies are not doing it because they're trying to be nice. They're doing it because they are legally required to. And if I don't want your garbage tracking me, I always turn them off except for the necessary ones. And I hope you do too, because quite frankly, it's not their business. We need to do this with a digital replica. And I'm going to read this. Digital replica, informed consent. Now I'm going to stop. Our 2023 Memorandum of Agreement between SAG-Aftra and the AMPTP, the film and television folks, allows for consent. But I recently did voices on a major animation studio project, and on my contract it said, performer's voice will be ingested into generative artificial intelligence in accordance with the SAG-Aftra MOAs. That's not informed. I reached out to the chief counsel's office. That is within the rules. So that is not okay. And then we've gotten in our contracts up to reasonably specific consent. Reasonably specific says, yeah, we're going to use you in this and we're going to use you for the voices of this and it will only be for this project. Well, let me tell you something. When computers get smarter than we are, it's going to make Swiss cheese out of reasonably specific. Yes, you have this performer's work for 6 months and then you have to renegotiate. Well, in 6 months and 1 day, maybe they'll just put a 29-second version of it on TikTok as an experiment as to see how it works with audiences. That's just another way to benefit the stockholders. That doesn't benefit the performers. We need informed consent. It's the process by which an individual is fully educated. You are fully educated about the specific uses, risks, and benefits associated with, and now I'm going to break this apart for you performers, the creation and use of their digital replica. Creation is what we used to call scanning. But if you show up on a mic and you're doing voiceover, welcome, have a seat, enjoy yourselves. If you are speaking into a microphone in a booth, that is your creation of your digital replica if they're going to turn you into artificial intelligence. If you're on a set and you're shot through an Alexa camera or a Red camera, that is, or you're scanned in a truck, that is the creation. And the other part of it is the use. How are they going to use that once they've scanned it? You show up to work, they say we're going to scan you. We need both how you're going to scan us and then how you're going to use us. Of their digital replica before agreeing to its capture or utilization, it requires clear, explicit, and comprehensive details about the intended usage, ensuring that you are aware of and you consent to every application of your digital replica. And I'll talk about how that applies to all humans and also performers, because again, we are the canaries in the coal mine of this. Now, here is the withering argument. I'm not joking. I went to Sacramento to testify for an anti-pornography bill. We had 2 minutes to testify. TechNet shows up and asks for an extra minute so they could explain why they want to shoot down the anti-pornography bill. That's what we're dealing with. They felt embarrassed saying this, but you're stopping progress, you're stopping people from making money, blah, blah, blah. The fact is they're using the First Amendment as an excuse to rip us off. And here's how this works. They say these bills violate free speech. Well, in California, by AB 2602, my likeness, my voice, my name and image are my property. If you want to make a statue of me and put a mustache on it, there's no such thing as bad publicity. You want to write news on it, that's fine, but get your own marble. You don't get to come into my backyard, steal my marble, and make your parody. Alec Baldwin played Trump for years. They put him in makeup for an hour. That already exists. If you cannot afford the marble, use paper mache, but this is my marble. And second of all, this is even more important than this slide. My likeness, my voice, my name and image are my signature. It's practically my fingerprint. If you can fool my family, if you can fool my dear son here in thinking that it's me, we have a problem. So it's forgery if you take it without my permission. Second bill is called the Anchor Act. This is about latent disclosure. Here's the thing. Every industry needs to protect its people. Now, I want you to know I'm talking about industry because industry is the way this is going to move through. People do not, industry does not care about your rights. Industry cares about its stockholder. The government sort of cares about your rights, but it cares about the people, the $100 million that the tech industry is now putting in their pockets in Washington. However, what we need to do is we need to establish columns by industry that actually protect the likeness, voice, name, image, movement of their employees, of the people who actually work for these companies. If you're an insurance company, you want things labeled on the photos taken. If you're a doctor, you want to make sure that your voice is only giving orders because it's you and not an AI deepfake. And as performers, this will come next. And we need to establish a board on the state and federal level that says, okay, insurance industry, what provenance, by the way, provenance means the origin, the birth certificate of a digital asset. What is the provenance of your asset? Where does it come from? And how do we label it? This is what I created for SAG-Aftra, called SAG-Aftra Digital Identity Schema. It's been renamed SAIDI, Secure Authentication Digital Identity Exchange. Essentially, I asked myself, if someone's filming me on camera, what do I want on my face? Well, how about my SAG-Aftra name and encrypted ID? How about the project name? Who's the producer? What's the IDER number? If you guys don't know what an IDER number is, it's across-the-board industry protection or labeling for your project. What's the production company? What are the time and date? What are the GPS coordinates of where the studio was, or where the camera was, or where it was recorded? Who is the engineer? And let's please put our DGA, WGA, and IATSE, our brother and sister unions, on that same footage because, quite frankly, they get residuals too. So, because of that, I joined something called C2PA. C2PA rocks, guys. C2PA is basically trying to figure out creator assertions. Now, this goes way beyond performers. This also goes to studios. This goes to anyone creating a digital asset, whether it's a video, whether it is an audio, or even a performance capture file. Essentially, I mapped our digital identity schema to a standards board. Okay, by the way, I have since learned that SAG-Aftra really should only have jurisdiction over the SAG-Aftra name and the encrypted ID. Let's protect the rest of the industry with this digital identity schema, and in turn, it will protect performers. Because right now, studios are getting their stuff ripped off. I challenge you, go to Midjourney and type cartoon mouse in Midjourney. You're gonna get one Mickey Mouse. Recently, I got one Mickey Mouse, one Ratatouille, one mouse that looked like it was from the Aristocats, and another one looked like straight out of Warner Brothers. People who actually create content are gonna need to protect their IP. I made a medical version. I've made a number of versions. This medical version, if you're a doctor speaking into a chart, you need information like the patient ID and the provider ID and why are they in the hospital, and everything needs to be encrypted properly. And we need to make sure that that doctor's orders definitely came from that doctor. And finally, the GUARD Act. If you are Netflix, if you are YouTube, if you are a Roku box, if you are a 3D game engine, you simply need to check for authenticity and for consent. Once that happens, you can play. And I'll talk about the actual technical enforcement mechanism about this in a bit. The first thing is we have to spot the fake. So let's imagine an actor. I know it was shot one by one, but let's just play with me. Let's say this is some film footage. Think of it like a police blacklight. Essentially, you digitally watermark a schema of whatever this industry decides to put on it on this footage in a way that is extraordinarily difficult to remove. I gotcha. And also make sure that everyone's interest in that production is served and it's not just randomly ingested into Google's AI engine and then used without permission. Because it took, I mean, this is a film festival. How many filmmakers are here? How many people did it take to make your work? A lot. They shouldn't be ripped off. They should be protected, as should you, because it's like birthing a child. And that watermark needs to be put in a vault. Now that vault can be three things. If you're Disney, it can be put on your server and given public access. It can be put on a secure area like AWS, if you consider AWS secure, or it can be put on something called the blockchain, if you're a nerd. The next one is informed consent. Okay, we talked about this. All right, let's just talk about this in terms of a human level. Let's say you're Apple. If anybody knows Apple, I will sit down and talk with them right now. Let's say Apple could protect 1 billion people with a single iOS update right now. Basically, if you have your A18 chip, and let's say, I'll use you again, let's say I'm sending you a picture of our cousin. I can actually, on my phone, go, oh, this is only for our family, and it can only be put on Instagram. Apple then watermarks it, and it goes out. And it makes sure that with authentication, only our family and only Instagram can see it. This is actually not a complicated thing, and this is all leverageable technology. I'm not saying anything to you that's Star Trek. For performers, we created something called the Production Casting Informed Consent Matrix. We have to ask 6 important questions. They should be asking us or telling us how they're going to use our digital replicas with informed consent. Number 1, am I going to be ingested into an AI system? Let's say I just booked the role of a tour guide at the Louvre, virtual tour guide. We're talking future tech, all right? So fine, am I going to be ingested into AI? Yes. What's going to be ingested? Oh, my likeness, my voice, and my movement? Great. What is it going to be used for? Tour guide for the Louvre. Not a car ad, not a public service announcement. This was the agreement. Second of all, am I playing a character? Yes, I'm playing Philippe, the tour guide at the Louvre. Will there be derivative works? Are you going to have a plush toy of Philippe at the gift shop that you can talk to? If so, that needs to go in the informed consent. Will there be standalone digital assets? Will I be in an ad for the Louvre? I know this is silly, but the fact is all these things need to be discussed. And by the way, if it's not on the consent matrix, it means you do not have permission to play it. Number 5, am I going to be naked? Now, I know it's in our collective bargaining agreements, but at the same time, say it again. And finally, what are the usage terms and revocation rights? We have this in all our contracts. I'm doing a commercial that runs network, internet, and cable. I should be so lucky for 6 months. That should be right on the blockchain. Or do I have revocation rights? If you break the rules, will I be able to say, I pull it? Now look, if you're in an Avengers film, you shouldn't be able to just pull your digital identity. You're gonna screw everyone on that production. But if they break the rules, you should absolutely be able to do that. And finally, we need to ask the production companies, are you going to secure your IP and make sure no one steals your actor's stuff? That should be in the agreement with a handshake, period. And I'm going to show you why it's going to benefit producers and employers to actually do this. Doctors, same idea. That consent matrix also goes in the blockchain, or it gets stored on a server. It's all locked, and here's how it works. Cooperative systems. As I said, no matter what you're doing to drive media, if you want to protect performers, the IP of studios, and the citizens of the United States of America, you're going to have to check. Otherwise, quite frankly, another hyperbole, 50 local mayors go on screen on their local stations saying that they're active shooters in their schools as a precursor to a major cyber attack. This is what we're talking about. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen, because quite frankly, legislators are all like, send me your deck. Yeah, this is really cool. Thank you. And they stay in touch with me, but they're sitting on their hands about this. Why? Because there are 100 million tech dollars going through Washington, and I don't know how much through Sacramento. And just note, I'm going to show you the valuation of these companies. Well, yeah, the cooperative system basically checks. Should I deliver the data? Let me look on chain. Let me look on the server to see if we actually have provenance, that birth certificate, and permission to use. And if it goes through, wonderful. Guess what an actor hears? Cha-ching. It should be for view. Now, you'll notice I was in The Flight Attendant, season 2. I did 6 episodes, but it wasn't very watched. So why should HBO be paying me if it wasn't that popular a show? But if you're on Game of Thrones and everybody watches it, you should be able to share the wealth by getting a view, just a view, like Spotify, like iTunes, except a way better deal. Okay? And and by the way, if it is the president, again, let's be apolitical about this, and you say security level 3 or higher only can see it, then if you authenticate as security level 3, it should play for you. And by the way, if you're president, you can tell if they actually did their job and watched the video that the president made for you. If not, as performers, as SAG-Aftra, no, I don't think we're going to litigate every case. I think our executive director, Duncan Crabtree Ireland, can ingest 100,000 of these infractions and then hold it up to Warner Brothers and say, hey, do you want us to put this in Variety? Fix it now. And if it's the president of the United States, someone needs to kick their door down in 5 minutes. So, here's how we win. As I mentioned, here are the top 10 valuated companies in the world. I just looked this up this morning, and I want you to know Berkshire Hathaway is number 11. Warren Buffett is number 11. Out of the top 10 companies, only Saudi Aramco is not a tech company. Look at those numbers. $24 trillion. If you add all of the Hollywood studios' valuation together, it's $1 trillion. And I'm going to say this, and this is where your hair is going to stand on end. I give Hollywood studios 3 years. Here's why I give Hollywood studios 3 years. I'm a filmmaker. I've been to I'm a member of the Television Academy. I went to the summit 2 years in a row, and I keep hearing about the democratization of creativity. Anyone can create now with zero talent whatsoever. They can break down a script in 2 minutes. There's a piece of software now, takes producers in a room for 3 days. What props are we using? 2 minutes. Also, I can dub you in 120 languages and move your mouth. There goes the dubbing business. Also, if I want to get B-roll, if I want to get a Mercedes S-Class driving up an autumn highway in the Adirondacks, why am I going to hire a B team to fly all the way out there or get it done in Sora in 2 minutes? And just so you know, I made a version of that Mercedes S-Class just to test. It took me half an hour, and it looks great. So my question is, what do we need studios for? Why do I need a lawyer to tell me that my screenplay is good? I'll make it for a tenth the price by myself, and guess who makes all those tools? The tech companies. This is where we are. I've talked to two people today who said, oh yeah, I couldn't make this music by myself. It didn't work out with the musicians, so I had AI make it. Guys, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. The question is, whose music is that? Whose face is that? And whose Mercedes is that? Because no one's buying a Mercedes to shoot it. No one's renting out that Mercedes. It has no value anymore. So, this law just came out. Here's our protection. I told you that if you have a front-facing LLM with over 1 million monthly users, you actually have to label it. If you break the rules and you're Adobe, now how many people use Adobe Photoshop every day? If Adobe doesn't label it, they pay $5,000 a day per asset. I work with Adobe at C2PA. They are not yet compliant. Just want you to know, they're doing their best. They're fighting for it, but they're trying to label everything. And by the way, and this is where we win, if you use Adobe and you withhold that latent disclosure, Adobe is required within 96 hours to revoke your license to use Adobe. This is our ace in the hole. So, remember how I told you Senator Ted Cruz and Melania Trump were fighting for the Take It Down Act because it's pornography? Our Attorney General Bonta came out with this press release on August 25th of this year, saying that I wrote letters to Midjourney, to 11 Labs, to Google, to Microsoft, to OpenAI, saying, if children get messed with your software, we are going to hunt you down. Okay? The reality is, I talked with Jai Jaishima, who is with the Transparency Coalition, and he helped write this bill, and he testified with me in Sacramento. The real reason this bill was written is obviously to protect our children, but one, so that you and I know the difference between real and fake. If it has to be labeled, if it's AI, we're going the right way. Number two, we need to protect ourselves from deepfakes. And three, creatives need to protect their intellectual property, and there are a lot of people who are fighting for us. So here we are. This is our opportunity as show business right here. Right now, this is the problem. They're stealing our digital identities and our IP. Labeling will create massive liability for these offenders, but only if they get caught. Now, no, studio IP is protected by federal copyright law. We performers are now protected in California and in Tennessee. By the way, I never thought I'd say this. Thank you, country music. And soon by the No Fakes Act federally. Do you guys remember this? Top Gun 2. There was one picture on the wall in this movie, and Barry Tubb did not give permission to use that, and there was a lawsuit. Literally, the camera panned by it. This is a reality. They used his likeness illicitly. That gun made $1 gazillion, and that actor did not get paid. There is a precedent for this in our business. So here's how it works. Right now, if you're a studio and someone steals a 12-second clip of your movie, you're dealing with IP problems. But now with the new laws, if there are two actors in that scene, we have a triple tort now. We have two actors suing over digital identity, and we have a studio suing over IP. But wait a second. We got DGA, WGA, and IATSE all going, hey, wait a second. You stole that. We're going to be part of this lawsuit. I presented this to the Television Academy, and it makes a lot of sense. We need to stand up as an industry. We have the most technologically advanced filming, well, I'm going to say technology twice. I mean, we have Oscars, technical Oscars. We have the recording industry, which is the most advanced recording industry. All we have to do is create seminal lawsuits where everyone dogpiles on top of the tech companies. So here's how we do it. There's a bill right now. By the way, check out protectdigitalidentity.org. If you would please sign it. It's essentially a bunch of performers, including stars and people high up in our union, who are asking our federal and state legislators to please pass bills that protect humans, because we as performers understand what it's like to have our stuff stolen. And the risk is existential at this point. Second, and I'll get into this a little bit, in Sacramento, there's a bill called AB 412, and I'll talk about it in a second. We're working to get 500 people lined up outside the Capitol building in Sacramento, fairly local to here. If you can mobilize, that would really help everybody to testify for a bill. And I want you to know, I testified for a bill last year, and right before I went on, 150 Jewish people showed up to testify for a bill to protect people from anti-Semitism. And it was very powerful, and it was very moving. And to have 500 people circle the Capitol building in Sacramento and give a 15-second testimonial for this bill, and this bill is in danger, and I'll tell you why. This bill is called AB 412. SAG-Aftra supported it. Jolie Fisher, our local president, just spoke for it. Tim Friedlander of NAVA and someone from the Writers Guild. Basically, it says that if you are a large language model, you have to document every piece of copyright that goes into it. TechNet hates this. Document the owners for every piece of material you bring in. You have to be able to fingerprint your work in that large language model to see if they used your stuff. If you ask, they have 7 days to say how they used your stuff. Every day after is a separate violation of $1,000 per violation. Now, no, 1,000 may not seem a lot, but you need so much information to make a large language model. It will be prohibitively expensive for them to not obey this law. And finally, even after you shut down, you have to retain those documents for 10 years. And I put the link on here if you want it. So just know, if we protect the studio's IP, we protect voice people's IP, we protect performers, not IP, digital identity. We protect performers' digital identity. What we actually have is we have a stand against using our stuff in an epic lawsuit. And if it doesn't happen, they're going to keep stealing our stuff. That's the action plan. Feel free, take a snapshot of this. What we're essentially doing, and you can sign up there, soon it's going to go on Spartacus.app. We have a good handful of people right now. It's going to happen sometime in October or November. AB 412 started out by Rebecca Bauer-Kahan, make sure. Rebecca Bauer-Kahan had a bill that was a 1-year bill, and it got turned into a 2-year bill because it's in such hot water. So if you guys could consider showing up when it happens, we're going to keep everyone updated. And check out protectdigitalidentity.org. Our goal is to make sure that everybody who creates media is protected and our children are protected, and it's the same conversation. The last thing I want to talk about. Actors. Acting 101. What is acting? It's reacting. It's listening. If you watch this thing act, all it's doing is it's talking into camera. It's not acting with Javier Bardem. It's not acting with Meryl Streep. It is going, I like Snickers bars. And by the way, if that's your job, you're not going to have a job for very long because commercials are increasingly going non-union. We're 80% non-union. If you can say, I like a Snickers bar and put a smile on and you look the right way, they can make you look like anything. Actors, work on your craft. Work to be on screen with Meryl Streep because those jobs are in peril. If you're a background performer, we have a requirement in our union that we have a certain number of background performers. But as soon as that melts away, where are we? And finally, this thing that just signed a $3 million deal is not Prince. She's not going to break a string on stage and finish the song. Okay? So the conversation is, yes, they can do great background work, but they are not actually doing the work that we performers are, which is ripping our skin off for you. Thank you.